The number one show I know that we all agree on is Break the Bank with Lerk and Deion.
So Lamar Jackson went on Twitter the other day, long ass thread about how he requested a trade. What, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? He said at the beginning of March he requested a trade. He feels some type of way that the Ravens haven't honored that trade request, and he feels some type of way talking about that he made the trade because they don't value him the way he values himself. Well, obviously they don't if they're not giving you the contract that you've been seeking for the last 2.5 years. Deion, I know you got your opinions on that, but apparently he feels like he had to request the trade because even though he has the exclusive free agent tag and everybody, I mean, franchise tag, and anybody can make him an offer, he thinks that nobody's offering him a contract because the Ravens can match it and will match it. But I don't know, that seems a little paradoxical given the fact that, like, if he felt like the Ravens would match it, then he would probably negotiate in better faith. But Dion, I know you have some strong opinions about this whole situation, so we'll start with you.
Like, I'm on his side. I want Lamar to get paid. I think he should get paid. I think there's a ton of teams, Niners included, by the way, who should pay him. Um, However, like, this reminds me of when Nerlens Noel hired Rich Paul and like would only sign for the max. And then he wound up with, I believe, the minimum or the MLE. And I'm not saying Lamar will. He's way, way, way
Yeah,
too
and
talented.
he turned down a lucrative contract for that too.
Yeah. But like it reminds me of like this type situation. Like, bro, like at a certain point, like you got to shut up and just like let things play out. And I mean, I just think it's been 3 years of all of them negotiating, not in good faith, whether it's Lamar or the Ravens. And now it's been a month of NFL teams coming up with reasons why they don't want to pay him. And in my opinion, the real reason is, and I believe Lamar said this, is like every team knows the Ravens are going to match the contract. So it's like, why would they help them? And I get that. Like, you don't want to waste time negotiating for somebody just for the team to re-sign him and probably at a better rate than like they offered, because I believe they offered like 3 years, 140 fully guaranteed, and he turned that down. So it's like, if you find a way to get him for 260, probably not fully guaranteed but really close, like that's a better number, especially cap wise, than that 140. So um I don't know. I understand everyone. The only person who I think is an elite dickhead in all of this is Arthur Blank, who was talking about like, the Deshaun Watson situation is different than the Lamar Jackson. Like, yo, get a grip. Get a grip. First
And he
off,
was talking about, but I mean, he did mention like he played both sides of the fence though. Because he made note of the fact that Lamar has accomplished more than Deshaun in the NFL. But at
well,
the same time, he brought up the play styles. And that's something that you two have been harping on for a while too, is that you don't, or at least X, I know for a fact, doesn't believe that his play style is sustainable.
Yeah, no, he's an injury risk, right? Because he's not a pocket passer. How do you beat Lamar? How do you beat the Ravens? You force him to be a pocket passer, right? Like if Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are down 17 points, do you really have faith that he's going to bring that team back? Right. So at that point, he has a specific style. He's an injury risk. I'm not handing him a fully guaranteed contract for 3 years, maybe. But anything past that, absolutely not.
I
No,
wouldn't hand most NFL players a fully guaranteed
no,
contract.
no, I'd
But
give Mahomes a fully guaranteed contract.
yeah.
I said
Absolutely.
most. I didn't say
Listen,
none.
Yeah. No,
listen,
you're
Not
right.
none.
listen.
There's
I
maybe a handful, maybe just Mahomes. Like I'd have to really sit there and go through every roster, but
I would give
the
Mahomes
NFL is a
90% of the
risky
organization, and I'd be like, yo, fam, you own it now. I just want 10%. Like, you can have my 90, bro. And I would trust that we would make more money just because he's on the roster. Here's my beef with the Deshaun versus Lamar thing is I don't necessarily think Deshaun's any less of an injury risk. Like, I feel like Deshaun has missed games in the past. I feel like, didn't Deshaun
He's
tear his
torn his
ACL?
ACL twice, I believe.
Twice, I believe. Yeah. So it's like I I feel like you could say the same about Deshaun. However, I think Deshaun on the field is 10 times the player Lamar.
And also, real quick, before you mention the off the field stuff, like just strictly talking about on the field and the injury stuff, while Deshaun has had those serious injuries, those are like bad hits, freak plays. Like it's not necessarily due to his style of play. Because while he can run, he's more of a pocket passer. Like he plays more closer to Mahomes than he does Lamar.
He's like
One
Josh
second.
Allen. He's like Josh Allen to me, where like I feel like if we saw the numbers on that, it'd be a lot closer between the three of them than we think on paper. Whereas, like, I believe
Look.
Josh Allen has had more design runs in the last like 4 years than Lamar, and he's had more rushing attempts than Lamar in the last 4 years. Now, some of that might be injury. I don't know, like I don't know games played between either player, but I feel like Deshaun probably wouldn't be like too far off that because he might not always run, but Deshaun is out the pocket a ton.
Correct. Now, here's
Yo,
the thing.
no, Deshaun. Wait, hold up. Deshaun has 3 seasons. His last 3 seasons in Houston, he had at least 82 rushing attempts.
Yeah, that's a pretty good amount.
That's a lot for a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I kind of take back what I said.
Let's go back to the trade request real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe he made the trade request with the intention of actually leaving the Ravens. I think what he's trying to do and what the job of an agent in that situation to do is to try and generate leverage in a circumstance where he has no actual leverage, right?
I feel
realistically speaking, he's not going to sit out, right? So look at the Kevin Durant situation. Like, yeah, you can demand a trade, but the team doesn't have to acquiesce. So in this situation, to where okay, if somebody does sign me to a contract, they'll just match. Well, now it's the Ravens bidding against themselves. Why would they ever cave to Lamar Jackson's request? But if he demands that trade, right, and him trying to stir up shit and give the illusion that maybe his situation in Baltimore is untenable, maybe then one of the other teams will be like, well, maybe there's an opportunity that maybe they don't match it. But again, if the Ravens are giving the impressions behind the scenes like, yo, fam, you can do what you want. We're going to match whatever the fuck y'all offer him. Then that's when you see coaches like fucking Ron Rivera come out like, look, man, we're good with who we got, which is like, do we really believe that Ron Rivera was like, look, we like Sam Howell more than Lamar? No, but the situation is like, look, we're not going to put all our resources out there for them to match it, and then we look like a dickhead, and then now we're just sitting here with our thumb up our ass. So he's trying to generate leverage and generate interest that teams are just too smart to understand. It just doesn't exist. The Ravens are not going to bid against them.
You also got to remember too, one thing that doesn't really get brought up in this whole situation is how angry every owner other than the Browns owner was when Watson got that contract. And that's why they keep talking about how that's an outlier. We're not going to let that be the new precedent. So if Lamar doesn't re-sign with the Ravens because he doesn't like any of the offers, right? Why would another owner allow their GM to make a lucrative offer when they don't want to reset the QB market?
And the draft picks. That's the thing we forget about. Like, and you got to give
Well,
up.
I brought up the draft picks before, and y'all both said nobody cares about the draft picks. If you could get Deshaun for a first and a second, you do it.
Yeah, well, I don't think the problem is resetting the QB market because, like, point blank, like, Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, I believe, are all eligible for a contract extension this year. Like, it's getting reset whether it's Lamar Jackson or not. Like, Herbert's gonna get a pretty close.
I think Lawrence got to wait another year.
Okay, well, Hurts
got to get paid.
Won't get fully guaranteed, but it'll be close. Herbert's going to get a fully guaranteed contract. And if he doesn't, it's going to be off by like 4 or 5 million. Nothing like anyone is going to be like up in arms about. So I don't really think the resetting of the QB market's a lame excuse. The only thing I would listen to if an NFL team came out and said this, and I don't think this applies to the Falcons, but if the commander said, like, we can build a team around him, I'd agree with that. I'm not saying Sam Howell's a better quarterback, but like if you bring Lamar in, that team ain't ready to play with Lamar. Like, how many teams in the NFL, if you could count on one hand, have a roster ready to compete with Lamar? You need a massive offensive line. You need to be able to run block at an elite rate. You need to have wide receivers that can block, which is why, by the way, the Ravens never have had like good wide receivers because they have to be able to block. And you need 3 to 4 running backs because 1 or 2 of them are going to get hurt with how many hits they take. And you need an elite defense because he's not going to score at a high rate. So you can't go down 17-0 like we discussed. So it's like, I don't think there's that many teams capable of winning with him at the moment. So a lot of teams are like, why would I trade 2 first-round picks for this guy if I can't even field a roster around him?
And you know who's telling you louder than anybody that Lamar Jackson is an injury risk? Lamar Jackson, right? The reason that Kirk Cousins got to the fucking bag is because he said, you know what? I'll play on the franchise tag for 2 years because I know you won't be able to tag me after that 3rd year, and then I'm a fucking free agent. And then that's why he was able to negotiate the contract that he did, which at the time was fucking unheard of. So if Lamar Jackson really believed that he could sustain this level of play and come out scot-free after 2 years, then you go play on the tag for 2 years. You probably collect what, maybe 55, 60 million during those 2 years, and then you hit the open market.
Maybe even more because he's gonna get like 30 or 34.
Let's say 65, 70 maybe. Let's call it, something reasonable. He's not playing for the MLE. He's playing for a good amount of money, right? 70 million is good money. And then you get hit free agency and you're free to negotiate with any team you want to. That is how you generate leverage. But the fact that he does not want to play on a tag lets you know that he's not 100% confident that he can make it out after 2 years free and playing at a high enough level to where, that's something that he would be willing to take a risk on. So, yeah, I wouldn't hand him a blank check, bro.
Moreover, to your point, X, he was offered 3/140 fully guaranteed. Like the Ravens don't have an issue giving him.
Yeah, I'd have took the 3/140 guaranteed and either try to negotiate the next contract where I get a lot more or bounce somewhere else.
Like the Ravens.
Let me go back to something you said, Deion, about teams not being built to play and win with Lamar right now. If the Ravens were to honor this trade request, right, or tell people, you know what, we're not gonna match anything. You could come get him. We don't want him. What's the best landing spot for Lamar?
In Green Bay. I think I said it last week. The most ideal trade for both parties is Rodgers for Lamar. Like that makes the most sense. If teams truly felt like they could win with Lamar right now, give me one reason why that deal doesn't make sense for everybody involved.
The age.
Because they don't have the kind of
the Ravens don't have. The Ravens aren't built to win with Rodgers.
That's not true because, like, with Rodgers comes the weapons.
Well, I mean, the Jets already signed who he wants.
The same ass weapons that he had in Green Bay.
Yeah,
like
But that's who he wants.
And the Jets signed most of them. The people that are remaining are ass.
That's the dumbest thing.
Their offensive line isn't great.
Hold on. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why did the Jets sign all the weapons Rodgers wants?
To get Rodgers.
Okay, so why do I give a fuck that the Jets signed all of that?
But if the Jets signed them already, who the fuck you bringing in? That's why I brought that up.
I'm talking about in general. Like, if Green Bay thought Lamar was like, why would Green Bay not negotiate with the Ravens if they thought they could?
according to the Packers GM, he spoke out recently about this. He said he never got a chance to speak with Rodgers, that he reached out to Rodgers multiple times after the season was over.
Never
was able to get in contact with them.
I'm not talking about Rodgers. I said, why would they not negotiate with the Ravens a month ago?
Again, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. The Packers said they were trying to talk to Rodgers to talk about the future, and they thought it was going to be an open dialogue and it was going to be and work together to figure something out and decide if he was going to return or not. And they couldn't get in contact with him. And then the agents reached out to him and told him that he wanted to trade to the Jets. According to
the reason they don't negotiate with the Ravens, Deion, is because when they trade Rodgers, they're gonna take like a $30-40 million dead cap, and then you're expected to go out and allocate another $40-50 million to Lamar. That means you're gonna have to allocate $90-something million to the quarterback position. And at that point, you're gonna have to either this offseason, you're gonna have to shed any vets making any kind of decent money just to be able to pay 90. So it's a win now move that prevents you from winning now. So that's why I don't think that Green Bay is a reasonable solution. To me, it's the fucking Niners. They've got the offensive line, they've got the fucking weapons, they've got the defense. And there's a reason why he wanted Trey Lance, right? For that dual threat option. You put Lamar Jackson with Kyle Shanahan, buddy, good night. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about Brock fucking Purdy, bro. Like, you put Lamar Jackson in.
Well, first off, like the Rodgers, like your reasoning behind Rodgers, I completely agree with. Like, but that's 27 NFL teams that would take a massive dead cap in order to bring on Lamar, which limits the amount of teams that can do it. You know what I mean? Like the Niners included, by the way, because they're gonna have to cut people to get enough cap to bring in Lamar. That includes Christian McCaffrey. They probably would have to trade Ayuk in that situation. You know what I mean? Like, so
Bring
like
him home.
also like I don't think the Niners offensive line is that good personally. Like I 3 quarterbacks got hurt, 4 if you count Josh Johnson this year, and like I mean,
In pass pro though, but in pass pro,
yeah, it's okay in run. It's okay in run blocking.
good enough for Lamar.
It's good enough. It's the best he's gonna find. Sure, like I agree with that. But like,
So
I
you saying
don't
the
think
run success that y'all continuously experience is more scheme than protection?
Did we have a ton of run success this year?
Yeah.
I mean, look, let's be honest. Like
Even with
McKinnon,
all the injuries.
McKinnon had some success with y'all. Elijah Mitchell had some success with y'all. Every running back you threw out there had some level of success, right? Now they kept getting hurt.
Previous years, but this year it's like we ran through 4 running backs. I think Jeff Wilson averaged 5 yards a carry. He was phenomenal. Like, don't get me wrong, but like Mitchell was like around 4, and I think McCaffrey like was either underneath 4 or like right at 4, which is it's not.
That's with no deep threat though, Deion. Like you're looking at the run success rate when they're like, yo, we don't think Jimmy G's gonna throw past 15 yards. So we're gonna stack the fucking box. Now, if you put Lamar there, again, it just if there's one person who's going to create mismatches, it's Kyle Shanahan. So I think we discussed this, but I think it's the Niners
and you got the
Dolphins, but I don't know.
You got the weapons at the skill positions to where you could definitely destroy.
We'd have to lose
passes like you've been doing.
We'd have to lose.
You're gonna have to get rid of a few.
Yeah, we'd have to lose a ton of them. They probably are gonna have to trade Ayuk anyway, apparently. So it's like that's without Lamar. So you add Lamar,
you know where he belongs.
New England, apparently.
Well, you brought up the Giants, but you brought up the Rodgers and Jets before. Do you think that
the Lions make sense? The Lions make sense.
Do you think the Jets should pivot away from the Rodgers talk and go after Lamar?
No.
They still better off with Rodgers?
I'd rather have 2 years of Rodgers than I would have 4 to 5 of Lamar. I'd honestly rather have 1 year of Rodgers than 4 to 5 of Lamar.
Respect. I ain't even mad at that. So NFL draft is a little less than a month away. Besides your favorite team, who are you looking forward to most to see what they do on draft night?
I'll be honest, I don't care about the draft at all.
For me, it's always the Eagles. They always they crush the fucking draft.
I hate them motherfuckers, yo.
And I think they got the number 6 pick this year? They got some fucking
I think they got somewhere in the top 10 that they got from the Saints.
It's 9, I believe.
I think the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins made a stupid fucking move, but I think the Dolphins got an extra first round pick. But like teams like that just realize like, look, man, even first round picks are not guaranteed. Like the hit rate in the first round is a little less than 50% to even find like a quality starter. So the more cracks that you take at it, the better. And so teams are like, yeah, we'll move back 4 spots. You know what I'm saying, and pick up an extra first round pick next year. Like those are the teams that I really and
there's like 4 quarterbacks projected to get taken in like the first 15, 20 picks. 3 in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, definitely 3, maybe 4, depending on if Will Levi's or Devies or whatever his fucking name is.
Yo, Deion, how you feel about that Richardson kid?
Stinks.
I was looking at some of the tape from the combine, and I instantly have like flashbacks to when X was salivating over what's his name, Malik Hooker or something like that. What's old boy's name?
Hendon Hooker.
No. I'm mixing up 1,000 names right now.
Malik Willis.
There you go, Malik Willis. Yo, X was salivating over him there after the combine, and watching Richardson, I'm like, it reminded me of that because. I didn't watch much of what was he at Florida? I might have seen like one game of him play.
He was at Liberty. No.
I'm talking about Richardson.
He was at Florida, yeah.
Yeah, I might have seen like 1 or 2 games from him this year, and I wasn't blown away. And he's not shit. They got Hooker who dealt with injuries and Levi ahead of him. So I was just curious what you thought about him. 'Cause I know
They
you
got Hendon Hooker ahead of Anthony
projected. Yeah,
Richardson.
they got Hooker projected at 3 right now. Not the third overall pick, but third quarterback to come off the board.
So I don't think Hooker goes early at all. He tore his ACL real late. Like he probably won't
Mhm.
play this year.
What
But he is pretty talented though.
the last thing I saw from the projection, it had Bryce going first, CJ second, then Hooker, then Levi, then Richardson.
Hmm.
All in the top 20. I wouldn't be
Yeah, I mean,
surprised if Hooker falls from the injury.
yeah, I mean, listen, I think quarterback's like one of the few positions where like in any sport where it's like if you're good in college, you're typically good in the NFL. And Anthony Richardson was really bad in college. I can't think Josh Allen maybe is an exception to this rule, but like even Josh Allen, like it was more so who he was doing it against than it was like lack of production. I can't think of a quarterback that was like just not good in college and just was magically good in the NFL.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, maybe. And I think the jury's still out on if he's good in the NFL. So it's like,
I disagree. I feel like the same shit. People been saying the same shit since he first got to the NFL, and he's shown improvement every year, even with the lack of weapons around him.
but he had one.
Justin Herbert.
Herbert was good at Oregon though.
No, his freshman year, they were like, "Yo, this guy's gonna be a top 5 pick." But remember, he could have came out and he didn't because he wasn't gonna be a top 5 pick. And then even when they took him, they're like, did they reach for him? There were a lot of questions.
I think Herbert, more so than he had low production, the expectations just were like, yo, if you don't win Heisman, you stink type of thing. And he didn't win Heisman. Like, I still think he was a good college quarterback. You know what I mean? Like he was better in college than Daniel Jones was, like by far.
Oh, by far.
Yeah, but like, Daniel Jones had no business going.
He went to, but you know what? Daniel Jones also went to Duke, and where he went to school says a lot already. Like, nobody goes to Duke for football. So listen,
all I'm saying
you
is
went to Duke, you're good enough to go to a better school, in my opinion.
Daniel Jones is the only starting quarterback where like I would listen to the argument of he was bad in college but is good in the NFL. And it's like he had one good college season and he's had one good NFL season. So like jury's still out on that.
Didn't you say similar things about your boy Purdy? You know, like
Purdy was good.
Could have sworn he was good.
Purdy was good.
Let's be honest.
Could have sworn you say he stunk, but he was fearless.
Purdy was really good at Iowa State. He was bad against pass rushes, which I still think he is. Like if you watch how he got hurt, like Brandon Ayuk was open for 10 minutes if he just isn't scared of getting hit.
Look, I just think it's impossible to judge quarterbacks in college right now, right? Because sometimes the talent disparity is so fucking large that it's like, bro, they're not thrown based on timing. These receivers are running wide fucking open. And yeah, they're hitting them, but it's like how many of these quarterbacks actually have to go to their second or third progression?
But that's when you start looking at guys like Bryce Young, who last year didn't have nobody to fucking throw the ball to. None of his receivers could create separation, and he was still making shit happen. And then you look at a guy like CJ Stroud, who everybody is questioning because he played with a fucking bunch of Sunday players.
Yeah, so I agree with what you're saying, Hex. Like they never go to their second round, but now in a league where maybe 3 quarterbacks go to their second read, I think we just make it tougher than it needs to be at this point. Like but if you're good in college, you're good in the NFL. Like there's really not. I just can't think. I can't think of a quarterback that was bad in college but was good in the NFL. Like I just can't.
What about the other way around though? Because you keep saying typically if you're good in college, you're good in the NFL.
You can be good in college and bad in the NFL.
Yeah, there's been look at your boy Kyler.
More often than not, you can be good in college and bad in the NFL.
Yeah. Shit. But like,
what you see the difference is I feel like most of those quarterbacks that were like good in college but bad in the NFL weren't really good in college. They just had one good year right before they entered the draft.
Yeah, well, they took advantage of the game. Like what I'm saying, like when I say they make it harder than they need to, like Anthony Richardson had a 54% completion percentage.
Yo, that is disgusting.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care that he can throw it 70 yards. If it doesn't go anywhere near the receiver, it doesn't really matter. So it's like, that's what I mean by like, they make it harder than they need to make it.
I feel you.
Even Will Levis stinks. He wasn't that good at Kentucky.
Yo, everybody's clamoring over him, and I swear it's because he's white.
He has a big arm. That's the main thing teams want. They want
I saw
teams.
during the college football season, I saw reports where GMs were quoted saying he should go number 1.
He has a big arm. Teams think they can teach accuracy. That's not true.
When the hell did that start happening? I swear, it's certain things that I just feel like you either got it or you don't.
That's been forever. Jamarcus Russell got drafted 1 under that assumption. Like that's been forever.
I mean,
Kyler
Josh
Murray,
Allen.
Josh
Allen
Allen,
learned how to be accurate.
Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. Like that's been forever. Like
I
everyone.
feel like with Josh Allen is more about him taking too many risks than it is about inaccuracies. Like, yes, some of his
he was
sorry.
he was inaccurate.
He was inaccurate, dog.
He was inaccurate.
You talking about his rookie year or in college?
College
I
rookie
didn't see him in
year.
college
It
at all.
doesn't like whatever year you want to look at before he blew up, he was inaccurate.
He was inaccurate, yes.
Well, I mean, he blew up his second year.
He was inaccurate up until that point.
Okay.
And even his second year, I believe he had like 35 expected interceptions or something like that, and like 20 of them were drops.
And it wasn't even that his accuracy got better. It was just like, it wasn't even like he blew up to like where he's at now. It was more so like, okay, now we see what they were thinking drafting him. He showed signs, right? And then his trajectories continued to climb. But even in second year,
And that was what Daboll's first year there, right?
Not that I'm not sure.
When Daboll pulled up to the scene, wasn't that his second year?
Yeah,
Not that. I don't know. Probably could be.
Daboll helped, but like, I mean,
I always felt like coaches be getting a little bit too much credit when it comes to the development of players. Granted, coaches definitely
I disagree.
deserve credit.
I disagree.
No, coaches definitely deserve credit. But look, at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer in you could train as hard as you want and still be ass. Like, there's just certain people just don't got it in them to be great. Like, you were not meant to be great. Certain people were destined for greatness. They barely put any work in, and it's just natural talent. And then there's people that it's a combination of both. I'm not saying coaches don't deserve credit for development of players. I just feel like sometimes they be getting a little too much credit. Like perfect example, when the Giants first hired Daboll, everybody and their mother was talking about was how Daniel Jones is going to be a superstar because he turned Josh Allen into a superstar. And can you really say that all that credit goes to Daboll for his development?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he stunk the year before.
Yeah, awful. Daniel Jones was fucking awful.
I'm not talking about Jones. I'm talking about Josh Allen still.
No, here's the thing.
Oh, dude, Josh Allen stunk too.
Some of the points you made were good points, right? Because if somebody don't have it, but let's give everybody a even playing field, right? They all got it. They all got that dog in them. They all got the work ethic, right? They all know how to be professionals. There are coaches that have a system that try to fit players to their system. And then there are coaches that build the system around their players, right?
Yes.
So that's why you can put whoever the fuck you want on Bill Belichick's team. He's going to build a system that fits the talent he has for that particular year. So, for example, you look at somebody like Ryan Tannehill.
I agree.
Look at Ryan Tannehill. He's on the Dolphins, right? All the numbers said, yo, when this motherfucker, when you roll him out on a bootleg and he's able to throw on a run, his accuracy, his quarterback rating, everything skyrockets. Why was he fourth from the bottom in terms of number of rollouts and bootlegs? Because they refused to put him in a position to succeed. A lot of these players may have limited talent, but you can maximize whatever talent they have by putting them in a position to succeed. And too often, coaches are scared of failing a way that's not theirs, right? Because job security is so shit that they're like, look, I'm going to do things the way I know how to do things. I'm not going to experiment. I'm not going to switch things up because I'm not comfortable there. I'm going to stay in my comfort zone. And then you see other players they're just like, look, okay, maybe you can do that one fucking thing, right? Like Bill Belichick, hey, you're offensive lineman, you can do this one thing. With me, I'm going to put you in a position to do that one thing. But then those same players go to other teams, they get signed to these massive contracts, they get put in other positions, and they always end up stinking. So it's just like,
but then you never really developed. You were just a system player.
No, but you had to still develop, though. They're still coaching you up. They're still coaching you to maximize your talent.
Again, coaches deserve credit. But if you can only have success being coached this one way and playing in this one system and can't play any other way and have similar success, then how much did you really develop? You're just a system player.
Because if you put that same player in some other system from the beginning, then he does whatever production he had on that one team, you never see him reach that production.
You're
He
right.
never develops to the point where he even produces at that level. So he's still developing. There's just a ceiling there. But he developed up to his ceiling thanks to the coaching. But anyway, I feel like
and those are the situations where the coaches deserve even more credit or all the credit.